If you were ever giving a presentation to a crowd, a great way to get them to lean forward and pay close attention is to say the phrase, "Let me tell you a story." Maybe this is why God not only speaks to us through stories in the Bible, but also through stories within those stories. Hi, I'm Mac Frazier, pastor of the Washington New Church in Mitchellville, Maryland, and this is part 19 in the series, Let's Read the Gospel of Mark. To watch the rest of this series, use this link here or follow the link in the description below. Last time we finished chapter 3. Now, this series has been on a little break over the past few months, so let's take a moment to catch up with the story so far. Chapter 3 began by introducing us to a group called the Herodians. These were supporters of the dynasty of King Herod the Great and his descendants, including the Tetrarch of Galilee, Herod Antipas. And for various reasons, this group was not a bunch of fans of Jesus, which led to them forming a sort of alliance with another group called the Pharisees. Then we read about how the crowds Jesus was attracting in Galilee continued to grow. And to deal with this, Jesus and his disciples began teaching people on the shore of the sea so they could then leave by boat and avoid the crowd when they were done each day. Speaking of his disciples, we learned that in addition to James, John, Peter, and Andrew, the Lord also gathered together 8 other students, bringing the total number of disciples to 12. Of course, with his growing popularity, Jesus also attracted increasing attention from people who didn't like what he was saying and doing. This included scribes who'd come all the way from Jerusalem to Galilee who accused Jesus of being possessed by an evil spirit, which was kind of funny, considering all he was doing was speaking truth and helping people become free from disease and possession themselves. Finally, at the end of chapter 3, we get a strange statement from Jesus, that his true family is not the people he grew up with, but anyone who does the will of God. This sort of coded speaking will happen more and more as we read the rest of the gospel. In fact, let's now pick the story up there and read the first 9 verses of chapter 4 of the Gospel of Mark, which is itself a story with a hidden meaning. And he began to teach beside the sea, and a very large crowd gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat in it on the sea, and the whole crowd was beside the sea on the land. And he was teaching them many things in parables. And in his teaching he said to them, "Listen, behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured it. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and immediately it sprang up, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. And other seeds fell into good soil and produced grain, growing up and increasing, and yielding 30fold and 60fold and 100fold. And he said, He who has ears to hear, let him hear." So, according to this, Jesus taught many things in parables. But what's a parable? Put simply, a parable is a story that has multiple meanings that run in parallel with each other. So on one level, a story could be about farming, but on another level, the same story is really about something else entirely. And both meanings are encoded within the same set of words and phrases that make up the story. Here, we get the first such story that Mark specifically labels as a parable. There will be many more as we go through this book. But what other meanings are in this parable about a person sowing seeds? Well, for that, you'll have to wait until next week, because for now, we're out of time. Let's close by saying the Lord's Prayer together, shall we? Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Thanks for joining me, and have a great week.